morning, or whatever greeting is appropriate to the time zone you're watching this in. On today's comic book issues, we're going to be reviewing the new comic book by Robert Kirkman titled Void Rivals. Robert Kirkman. So this book must be about ultraviolet superheroes. No. Then it's got to be about the zombie apocalypse. Guess again. Then it's an alternate take on existing superheroes in a newer or ultimate universe. Not even close. It stars a werewolf secret agent? Couldn't be further from the truth. An asshole gets a shrinking suit and sneaks into women's showers. Are you alright? Seriously. There's a dog with incredible gadgets, and this could take a while, folks. Enjoy the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Hines. Hey, now before we get started, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the bell for notifications, and check out my Patreon page. And while you're at it, put your left foot in. Now take your left foot out. In, out, in, out. Now shake it all about. Recently, a book started making the comic book news sites. It's an image title called Void Rivals, written by the infamous Robert Kirkman of Invincible and The Walking Dead fame, with art by Lorenzo De Felici and Matheus Lopez. Why is this book so important? Why did it cause such a stir? What better way to tell you than take a long, intricate look at the comic itself? I mean, actually, I could just tell you why, but this is my show. We'll do things my way. This is Void Rivals number 1. On an alien world, in a crashed spaceship, the pilot punches through the cockpit's canopy. Actually, the pilot is out, but he has a robot hand. The hand tries to revive him before deciding to drag him to a nearby medical kit thrown from the wreckage. Inside is a pod with a hypodermic injector. The pilot, Derek, is now revived. He asks the hand droid, where are they? Whew! Can you imagine if your hand could talk? Yikes. I know all your secrets, Brian. You've made me do terrible things. Now I own you. When he engaged with the Zertonian ship, both ships were caught in the gravity of a passing comet and flung into an unknown quadrant. The android is trying to best calculate where they are in relation to their home, the Sacred Ring. It is, however, unlikely that the Zertonian enemy also wound up here with them. Well, that's good. But the ship's totaled. And that's bad. Also, Derek almost gets shot. It seems the Zertonian is here. That's very bad. And his gun isn't working. Could his day get any worse? The Zertonian tackles him. They proceed to tear it up and fall into a crater. Derek raises a rock to crush his enemy's head when they say, please. He asks her if she would show him mercy if their roles were reversed, and she admits it would be unlikely. Odd as it is for two mortal enemies to be in this situation, they decide not to kill each other. Handroid confirms what Derek suspects. Only by working together can they survive. Oh, now I know what story this is. It's Enemy Mine! The story of two members of different alien races who are at war with one another, but must put aside their differences when they're shot down on an abandoned planet. And then Lou Gossett Jr. gets pregnant with Mondo from the Generation X TV movie. They don't really trust one another, but Derek keeps pushing that only together can they survive. Both note a remarkable similarity between the technology of their two species, at least until the Zertonian hooks up the power source incorrectly. Derek saves her from an explosion, and she puts out a fire on his jacket. Her name is Solila. They finally come to an understanding, but their ship is destroyed. Distraught, Solila walks off while Derek's android scans the wreckage. The engine isn't great, but still workable. Suddenly, Solila comes running. He needs to come see what she saw. She saw? So Solila, she saw something surprising so soon? Shit. They come upon a half-buried craft. It's not from either of their races, but should accept their power source. They start to power it up when all of a sudden the ship literally comes to life. It's a transformer. He introduces himself as a scientist named Jetfire. Oh, it's Robotech! I literally just said Transformer. Oh, so you know the script better than Robert Kirkman, huh? You are so exhausting. They don't really get too much out of him as he realizes he may have been on this planetoid for millions of years. Panicking, he needs to get back to Cybertron and transforms before blasting off into space, leaving the pair stranded. Again, Solila has given up, but Jetfire has inspired Derek. Maybe the parts in their spacesuits are enough to repair the ship. Yes, it's forbidden to see one another, their races hate each other, yada yada yada. Except, they kind of look alike. Yellow-skinned humanoids with gems embedded in their foreheads. Their races look the same, just like in Derek's vision. What?
And there you have it. Jetfire of the Autobots showing up in an Image comic. Robert Kirkman has said that Void Rivals is the beginning of the Energon universe. Rolls off the tongue, don't it? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, is Void Rivals any good? Or is it a $4 excuse to have a moment? Let's take a closer look at Void Rivals number 1.
It's a trope, it's a cliche, it's been done before. Two enemies have to work together to survive. That said, it's still an enjoyable read as Kirkman takes his time fleshing out Derek and Solila, at least personality-wise. We get some bare-bones references to their cultures, but personal histories will have to wait until issue number 2. But we do get a feel for who they are. Derek comes off as practical and in control. Solila more emotional and prone to lashing out. Even the android has a bit of a personality. It seems to genuinely want to help Derek, even if it means reminding him of all the mistakes he's making. A Jiminy Cricket character, if you will. I made a joke about this being Enemy Mine, but I wasn't wrong. That's because, as I said, this story has been told so many times it's a bit of a cliche. We get the initial try to kill each other phase, then we have the coming to terms with working together moments, and finally the let's start to share a bit moments. The biggest surprise here is the discovery of Jetfire, who in the 1980s Transformers cartoon was hibernating on Earth when the Decepticons find him, but he eventually rejects their principles to align with the Autobots. A huge moment in the series, as till then only the Decepticons could fly. That said, he pulls a jerk move and takes off in a panic, leaving our heroes stranded. He's in all of 5 pages. For a book that's setting up a shared universe, Kirkman makes surprisingly little use of his licensed properties. Having read issue number 2, I can also say that the focus remains on the stranded aliens until the very last page of that book. After a very successful and well-received run from IDW, the Transformers licensing has shifted to Image Comics, where they will be part of the shared storytelling Energon universe, a group of comics focusing on the Transformers and G.I. Joe properties, published for Image under Kirkman's Skybound imprint. The buzz is real, as they've already announced a new Transformers book by Daniel Warren Johnson, who I'm hoping some of you will remember from my recent review of Do a Powerbomb, a book I had nothing but praise for. So I'm already looking forward to the books to come from this new run. Kirkman gives a very good story, and the art by Lorenzo De Felici and Matthias Lopez is excellent. It has a kind of fuzzy European style to the drawing, in that the characters aren't a lot of sharp lines, but soft curves. There's not a lot of expression work, as the characters are wearing helmets most of the time. In fact, they remind me a lot of Kirkman's earlier character, Tech Jacket. That said, De Felici and Lopez's art really handles the space, the environment, the explosions, the action. It's all excellent. This is a very good-looking and well-written book.
With quality creators like Kirkman and Johnson heading the Energon universe, I'm looking forward to some cool, fun stories that hopefully push past the basic good guy versus bad guy themes that were a hallmark of the 1980s cartoons. I've grown up. I want a more mature transforming robot experience. I give Void Rivals number 1 4 out of 5 stars. And knowing soon I won't know whether to say Yo Joe, Cobra, Autobots roll out, or whatever it is Decepticons say. This has been Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, Brian Hines.